Have you ever wondered what would happen if, instead of just sleeping, you used this time to wake up something sleeping inside you? What if I told you that while your body rests, your soul can flourish? There is a silent place within each of us where the inner magic, you hidden talents, that forgotten spark that still shines even beneath the layers of everyday life. Many people carry the feeling that something is missing, as if they had left a valuable part of themselves behind. What few know is that this something is there all the time, waiting to be rediscovered, often hidden in what we call golden eyeshadow. During sleep, when defenses fall and the unconscious opens, we have the chance to touch this sacred space where our soul lives. Inner potential. This meditation was created precisely for this, to reconnect you with your inner child, with your authenticity, with everything that makes you unique. It's more than relaxing, it's a journey of self-knowledge, self-acceptance, and mainly self-care. And no, you don't need to be an expert in spirituality or meditation. Just lie down, put on your headphones, and allow yourself to feel. The rest happens naturally. Throughout this audio, you will be guided by images, sensations, and positive affirmations that will activate your intuition and open up paths transformation. Get ready for something deep, beautiful, and above all, true. What is about to awaken is you. Have you ever noticed how sometimes we intensely admire certain qualities in other people, that courage, that creativity, that sparkle in their eyes, and we feel as if that were something far away from us? That's where the surprise lies. What you see with delight in others may precisely be a reflection of what is dormant within you. We call this golden eyeshadow, a rich and powerful part of your being that has been covered up by beliefs, fears, and past experiences. This shadow does not bring fear, it brings light. She's just waiting to be recognized. The journey of self-knowledge begins when we stop looking for answers outside and turn our gaze inside. In this search, we found traits that we previously ignored, hidden talents, shelved wills, the old boldness of inner child who still lives inside. It's curious how so many people spend their whole lives trying to find themselves, when, in reality, what we need is to remember who we already are. The inner magic, it was never lost, it was only silenced by the demands of the adult world. Revisiting golden eyeshadow is not an act of vanity, but of courage. It's an invitation to recognize your greatness without guilt, without that false modesty that made you believe was necessary. When you take on these qualities, even if little by little something begins to change, you feel a different warmth in your chest, an intuition that strengthens, a sense of purpose that aligns with who you really are. It's not about becoming someone else, it's about dusting off your authenticity. And if all this seems distant, try remembering when you were a child. Do you remember your dreams, the games you invented, that certainty that you could be anything? There was your inner potential in pure state. It is this same shine that can and should return. Meditation is a powerful tool for this. During sleep, your unconscious opens, and it is in this space that this reconnection begins to happen. But this is just the beginning. The next step takes us even deeper. When we slow down, even for a few minutes, something inside us begins to whisper. It's an almost imperceptible whisper, at first drowned out by the noise of everyday life, of obligations, of other people's expectations. But he is there. This whisper is yours intuition calling you back home. Creating a space of conscious silence is like opening a trail to that internal place where your most valuable resources live: strength, sensitivity, courage, creativity. Guided meditation comes in here as a bridge. It guides your focus, softens the mind, and invites you to breathe differently. And believe me, changing the way you breathe changes everything. When you breathe in with intention, you access something that once seemed out of reach, a wisdom forgotten but still alive within you. This is the point where the self-acceptance begins to take shape. When you close your eyes and allow yourself to be with yourself without judging yourself, without trying to fix anything, a rare kind of freedom arises. You no longer need to fight how you feel. In fact, the more you welcome your emotions, even those that bother you, the more you integrate the parts that were fragmented. This is the one emotional integration that so many seek without knowing. It's not about controlling feelings, but understanding what they have to say. It's like listening to a child who just needed attention. This child, deep down, is you in your essence, that being who still knows what he wants, who is clear about what makes him tick, but who, for fear of not being accepted, has learned to remain silent. And if you don't know where to start, here something simple: sit down, close your eyes, breathe deeply for 3 minutes, and ask yourself one question: what inside me have I been ignoring? The answer may not come immediately, but the act of asking begins to move the waters. Over time, memories, sensations, images emerge. Maybe you remember a moment from childhood when you felt whole. Perhaps you will be surprised by the memory of a forgotten talent, a passion that was left behind. This is how the inner potential will reveal itself. It doesn't arrive with fanfare. It flourishes in the space you create when you choose to listen with presence. When we let's reconnect with these internal resources, our inner magic, our conscience, emotional, our ability to love and be loved, we realize that we are not broken. We never were. We just move away from important parts of ourselves to fit into molds that were never ours. Meditation, especially during sleep, acts as a silent portal to this reconnection. It doesn't require effort. On the contrary, the less you try to control it, the more it works. Deep down, it's like remembering something that was always there. And this reunion with oneself paves the way for something even more powerful: true transformation. Transforming yourself isn't about becoming someone else, it's about allowing yourself to be who you've always been, just without the armor. Often when we hear the word shadow, we think of something negative, something to be fought against. But the truth is that every shadow, including the golden eyeshadow, holds within itself an invitation to see more clearly what is hidden behind our judgments. When we recognize what bothers us, whether in ourselves or in others, and at the same time manage to look at it with curiosity and not guilt, we begin to open ourselves to a profound transformation. Not that forced change made to please or fit in, but an internal metamorphosis, which springs from the conscience of who we are, whole and imperfect. This recognition is the turning point. It requires courage to look squarely at parts that we often learn to reject, like our sensitivity, our emotional intensity, our creative impulses, or even our need for affection. But instead of pushing this under the carpet, the proposal here is to welcome it, saying, "I see you. I understand why you came to be. And now I choose to integrate you." And when this emotional integration happens, something magical starts to move. Internal resistances weaken. the masks fall. And what remains is not weakness but genuine strength. A strength that comes from encountering one's own truth. It is at this point that the self-care manifests itself. Not as a mystical and distant event, but as a practical, everyday, almost silent process. From the moment we recognize our exiled parts and stop treating them as enemies, we create within ourselves a fertile environment for flourishing. It's as if the ground is finally ready for the inner potential could sprout. And it really emerges in a courageous decision, in a more honest speech, in a gesture of self-love that previously seemed impossible. It all starts with recognition, because we can only transform what we are willing to see. It is important to remember that this transformation does not need to be instantaneous. It's not a race, it's a process. Sometimes all that is asked of you is one small step, accepting a truth, accepting an emotion, allowing yourself to feel without judging yourself. And that is already huge. After all, every time you recognize a part of yourself as legitimate, you break a pattern. You change your relationship with the world. And little by little, you stop living in an automatic, reactive, fragmented way to live with more authenticity, more presence, more truth. And that's when the path really begins to open up. Because everything you integrate frees you. And everything that frees you transforms. Perhaps one of the greatest acts of courage in life is to look in the mirror for real and say, I accept myself exactly as I am. It seems simple, but it goes against almost everything we were taught. From an early age, we are trained to seek approval, to correct flaws, to mold ourselves to please. And in the middle of this process, we move away from what makes us unique. The self-love, it is not born from external praise, nor from perfection. It flourishes when we can maintain a kind outlook on ourselves, even on difficult days. It is there, in this space of deep acceptance, that we begin to build a solid foundation, a foundation that does not crumble in the face of criticism, fear, or comparison. As positive affirmations are powerful tools in this process. Not because they are magic in themselves, but because they help to reprogram internal dialogue, which has often become toxic, rigid, or demotivating. Saying to yourself daily phrases like I am worthy of love or my presence has value is not a foolish act, it is a mental and emotional reconditioning. By repeating with intention, you begin to break old patterns of self-sabotage. And when these words become familiar within you, something changes. You start to treat yourself with more respect. And this spreads because those who treat themselves well treat the world with more humanity. Self-acceptance does not mean accommodating yourself, but embracing yourself. It's the difference between wanting to change because you hate yourself and wanting to grow because you love. When you say I am enough, you are not saying I am perfect, but rather I am whole even with my flaws. This perception transforms. It allows you to act without fear of making mistakes, create without fear of judgment, live more lightly. Self-love also makes room for healthier relationships. After all, when you recognize yourself as valuable, you don't accept less than you deserve. It's like tuning an instrument before playing. Everything sounds different when you're in harmony with yourself. And if it still seems distant to feel all of this, start small. Make your meditation a safe space where these positive affirmations can enter without barriers. Lying down with your eyes closed, say mentally, I am a gift to the world. Say it even if you still don't believe it. Because belief comes with repetition, with time, with practice. This is a journey home. And at home we feel safe, loved, whole. Meditation gives you that, a return to your conscience more fully, to your authenticity at its center. And from now on, there is only one trend to grow with roots and with soul. Repeating words may seem like a simple gesture, even automatic. But when these words are chosen with intention and repeated with presence, they become seeds in the fertile soil of the mind. To the positive affirmations, they serve as little reminders of who you really are, not who you convinced yourself you should be, but who already exists beneath the layers of doubt, comparison, and fear. During sleep, when brain waves calm and the unconscious opens, these phrases have the power to penetrate deep, reprogramming limiting beliefs that often operate on autopilot. It's like adjusting your mind's frequency to a station that is more loving, confident, and consistent with your inner potential. Imagine that your mind is like a garden. Every day thoughts sprout there, some nutritious, others toxic. Repetition of affirmations acts like the act of consciously planting and watering what you want to see flourish. When you hear, for example, "I am enough just as I am," or "everything I need already lives within me," something starts to move. At first it may sound artificial. After all, we are used to the opposite. But repetition changes that. Over time, these phrases stop being just words and become internal convictions. That's where it starts transformation. You're not just saying something nice, you're rewriting the story you tell about yourself. A good practice is to choose 3 affirmations that resonate with the current stage of your life. Write these sentences on paper and leave them next to your bed. Before going to sleep, repeat them quietly or mentally. This already sets the stage for guided meditation to act in more depth. And when you wake up, do the same. This repetition creates an energetic continuity between the conscious and unconscious. This strengthens your self-love, your intuition, and your ability to stand firm in the face of challenges. Remember, you are not trying to convince yourself of something. You are actually reconnecting with truths that have been suppressed over time. And your body feels it. Your breathing changes, your posture changes, your energy changes. During night meditation, this repetition intensifies and deepens. Like mantras that gently glide through the sleeping mind, they occupy the space where there were once criticisms and insecurities. And little by little, these new messages take root. You wake up more centered, more at peace, more connected with your inner magic. This is not a miracle, it is neuroscience combined with spirituality. The unconscious learns through repetition. And if you choose to repeat love, trust, authenticity, what will blossom within you is not just well-being, it is freedom. Freedom to be you. No fear. No disguises. Just whole. Inside each of us there is a child. It did not disappear with time. She just withdrew, waiting for a safe moment to express herself again. That inner child, she is the guardian of our sensitivity, our spontaneous creativity, our ability to dream big and laugh easily. But he is also the one who carries the oldest wounds, the fear of not being enough, the pain of having been rejected, the guilt of not being able to live up to expectations. Healing this child is no easy task, but it is one of the most liberating. And guided meditation, especially during sleep, creates the perfect environment for this reunion. During childhood, we often learn that in order to be loved, we would need to give up important parts of who we are. Perhaps you have stifled your sensitivity to avoid being called weak. Maybe you hid your creative talents for fear of judgment. Or he learned to always please, even if it meant abandoning himself. This adaptation was a way to survive emotionally. But now, as an adult, you can choose differently. You can choose to rescue these lost parts and give them the space they deserve. And that is precisely where the transformation begins, when you stop abandoning yourself and start embracing yourself. Healing the inner child does not require detailed memories or intensely reliving trauma. Sometimes it all starts with a simple gesture, imagining yourself looking into the eyes of your little self and saying, "You're important. I'm here now. And I'll never ignore you again." This type of visualization, guided with care, opens deep doors into the unconscious. What was once pain begins to turn into self-compassion. What was once silence becomes expression. And so, your inner potential, previously dormant, begins to awaken with the strength of someone who no longer needs to hide. Guided meditation may suggest that you remember moments when you felt happy as a child, or games that brought you genuine joy. This isn't just nostalgic, it's therapeutic. These memories activate a part of the brain linked to spontaneity and creativity. They help to unlock hidden talents that were frozen in time. Many adults only return to painting, writing, dancing, or creating after finding that child within themselves. And when that happens, something magical appears. You start to live lighter, with more truth, with more authenticity. It is also common for intense emotions to arise in this process. Sadness, anger, longing. This is expected and is a sign that there is movement. Instead of resisting these emotions, embrace them. Tell yourself it's safe to feel this way now. This type of emotional integration, it doesn't happen overnight. But each time you validate that child's pain without trying to fix it, you take a step toward healing. Self-care. And the more you walk in this direction, the more your present transforms. You become someone who doesn't live in the past, but who honors your roots. And healthy roots make a new version of you flourish. The inner child does not need a savior. She needs you, adult, conscious, loving, present. When you commit to it, you reconnect with your inner magic. And that changes absolutely everything. You begin to live no longer from lack, but from fullness. No longer from fear, but from courage. Because now you know that within you lives an immense strength, a forgotten treasure, a voice that is finally being heard. And when you listen to her, you also listen to yourself completely. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine a version of yourself fully awake, free, full. Imagine living without needing to shape yourself, without needing to hide your gifts, without asking for permission to shine. This is the vision of self-realization, not as an unreachable destination, but as a frequency you can tune into now, even if in small doses. Meditation takes you to that place. An internal space where there is no longer any doubt about its value. Whereas your conscience, it is clean, firm, and open. Where you look at the world and say, I am, and that's enough. This image is not fantasy. It is a mirror of what is potential within you, just waiting for your permission to emerge. During sleep, the body rests, but the soul can travel. She goes in search of what was forgotten, what was denied, what needs to return to the center. And in this silent flight, driven by meditation, clarity arises. You did not come into this world to repeat patterns. Came to break them. Came to remember. Came to live with authenticity. And this memory does not arrive as an external order, but as an internal whisper. Something soft but firm saying you are already what you are looking for. What is missing is not more knowledge, nor techniques, nor diplomas. What's missing perhaps is just space to let what's true flourish. And that is exactly what this vision proposes to you. In this deep visualization, you see yourself doing what you were born to do. Maybe it's creating, caring, teaching, healing, inspiring, building, touching lives. The format doesn't matter, the energy behind it matters. Do you see your inner magic manifesting itself without restrictions, without censorship? You realize how your presence impacts the world around you. People approach, opportunities align, doors open. And this doesn't happen by chance, but because you have internally aligned yourself with who you really are. You stopped living like someone waiting for permission. He began to live as someone who recognizes that the simple fact of existing is, in itself, a gift. And all of this is accompanied by lightness. Because being who you are doesn't get old. What's tiring is supporting characters. What exhausts you is fighting yourself. When you surrender to your nature, your truth, your inner potential, the flow changes. You start to say yes more to what expands you and no more to what compresses you. You learn to choose based on intuition and not in fear. And this creates a positive spiral. The more you listen to yourself, the more your life aligns. The more you align, the more you trust. And the more you trust, the more courage you have to live big, not small. This view of self-actualization is not selfish. On the contrary, she is a gift to the world. Because when you allow yourself to flourish, you inspire others to do the same. When you live fully with self-love and integrity, you become a beacon. Your energy changes the environment. Your presence becomes medicine. You become a bridge between what is possible and what has not yet been attempted. And that doesn't require perfection. Requires delivery. It demands that you stop comparing yourself, stop putting yourself down, and simply stand up with everything you are, including your pain. After all, your healed wounds become part of your strength. In guided meditation, this possible future is planted in your heart. It is not imposed. It is dreamed together with you. It's as if with each repetition, with each deep breath, with each image viewed, you are pulling this more complete version of yourself into the present. You see yourself walking with confidence, speaking clearly, creating with soul, relating with truth. You feel like you are finally living and not just surviving. This is the essence of self-care, integrating past, present, and future into the same point of power, the now. Because it is in the now that your life changes. And when that vision becomes familiar, you start making different decisions. Even awake, you act with the wisdom acquired during sleep. Start setting limits without guilt, expressing desires without shame, cultivating habits that nourish your soul. You become more present, more generous with yourself and others. And the closer you get to this version of yourself, the more you realize it was always here. I just needed to be heard. And now that you've heard her, she won't go away. Because once you awaken your inner treasure, you can't go back to sleep the same way. And now that you've walked this journey, the question that echoes softly in the back of your mind remains: what if everything you seek is already within you? Yes, it may sound too simple, almost too poetic, but the truth tends to hide precisely there, in the obvious that we forget to live. The path of self-care does not require perfect steps or ready-made answers. He demands presence, and above all, courage to look inward, because it is there in the recesses of the soul that your soul lives. Inner child, your hidden talents, your golden eyeshadow, everything you thought you needed to conquer out there. Perhaps throughout your life, you have become accustomed to defining yourself by your wounds. For the no's you heard, for the times you were silent, for the masks you needed to wear to feel accepted. But this meditation did not come to reinforce this story. He came to rewrite it. To remember that you are made of light, yes, but also of shadow. And that integrating these parts without rejection is the greatest act of self-love that someone can offer themselves. You no longer need to deny your pain to find your strength. In fact, it is when you embrace pain with awareness that you discover its real power. So, I invite you to reflect: how many times have you stopped yourself from growing for fear of being who you really are? How many times have you ignored yours intuition to follow the most acceptable path? How many times have you hidden your inner magic because you thought she was too much or too little? What if your truth is really what the world needs most right now? This journey during sleep does not end when we wake up. On the contrary, it starts, because it is in everyday life, in seemingly small choices, that transformation takes shape. Maybe it's time to allow yourself to experience life in a new place. A place where you are not what happened to you, but what you choose to do with it. A place where self-acceptance, it is not conformity, but emotional maturity. A place where you honor your past but commit to your future. And this commitment begins with simple gestures: taking care of your energy, respecting your limits, listening to yourself more delicately. This does not require you to change countries, drop everything and go meditate on a mountain. It just requires presence. And one step at a time. Are you willing to take this step? Are you ready to look at yourself with new eyes? To say yes to parts of yourself that have been forgotten, silenced, repressed? Because if the answer is yes, even if with fear, then there is already movement. And this movement is sacred. It's the dance between who you were and who you are becoming. From here, everything can be different. Not because the world has changed, but because you chose to change the way she relates to him. With more conscience, with more authenticity, with more truth. If this content resonated with you, don't let it get lost in the routine. Save this meditation. Return to it as many times as you need. And more than that, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications and follow new content that will continue to nourish your soul night after night. Because your awakening is a process and you don't have to go through it alone.